Imagine standing in front of two houses. From the outside, they appear almost identical. Both are large and beautifully designed. The gardens are carefully maintained. Expensive cars are parked in the driveway. The lights shine brightly through the windows. If you were simply passing by, you would probably assume that both families are equally happy, but appearances can be deceiving. Inside the first house, silence has become heavier than words. A husband and wife no longer speak with kindness. They share the same roof but live in separate emotional worlds. Their children spend more time with their phones than with their parents. Meals are eaten alone. Conversations have become arguments. Smiles have slowly disappeared. The house is filled with possessions, yet strangely empty of peace. Now imagine walking into the second home. It is much smaller. There are no luxury cars. The furniture is simple. The family does not have unlimited wealth, yet every evening they gather around one table. They laugh together. They listen to one another. When difficulties arise, they solve them together instead of blaming one another. There is warmth. There is trust. There is genuine happiness. Now ask yourself a simple question. Which family is truly rich? Modern society often teaches us that success is measured by income, status, and material possessions. We are told that if we earn enough money, buy a beautiful house, and provide every comfort for our family, happiness will naturally follow. But reality tells a very different story. Around the world today, many wealthy families struggle with loneliness, anxiety, depression, divorce, and broken relationships. At the same time, countless families with modest incomes live peaceful and meaningful lives. Why does this happen? Why do some families flourish while others slowly fall apart? Is happiness simply a matter of luck, or are there deeper principles that determine whether a family grows stronger or weaker over time? These questions are not new. More than 25 centuries ago, a man asked similar questions, not about kingdoms or political power, but about the human heart. That man was Siddhartha Gautama, whom history remembers as the Buddha. Unlike many philosophers who focused only on abstract ideas, the Buddha carefully observed ordinary human life. He watched how people worked, how they earned money, how they treated one another, how they raised children, how friendships influenced character, how greed destroyed peace, how wisdom created harmony. The Buddha understood something remarkable. Families rarely collapse because of one dramatic event. Most families do not suddenly fail overnight. Instead, they slowly weaken through thousands of small decisions made every single day. A careless word, an ignored responsibility, a dishonest action, an unnecessary purchase, a neglected relationship. Each decision may appear insignificant on its own, yet together, they shape the future of an entire family. In the same way that a magnificent tree begins as a tiny seed, every happy family begins with small daily habits. Likewise, every broken family often begins with small daily neglect. This insight is surprisingly consistent with modern psychology. Researchers today tell us that our lives are not shaped primarily by the biggest decisions we make. Instead, they are shaped by our habits. What we repeatedly do becomes who we eventually become. A family is no different. The habits practiced inside a home gradually become the culture of that home. Children learn not only from what parents say, but from what parents consistently do. If parents practice patience, children learn patience. If parents solve problems through anger, children often learn anger. If honesty becomes a daily habit, trust grows naturally. If dishonesty becomes acceptable, trust slowly disappears. The Buddha recognized this long before the science of psychology existed. He understood that happiness cannot simply be wished into existence, it must be cultivated. Just as a farmer cannot harvest rice without preparing the soil, watering the fields, and patiently caring for the crops, a family cannot harvest happiness without daily effort. This brings us to one of the most practical teachings found in the Buddhist scriptures. One day, a lay follower approached the Buddha with a sincere question. He was not asking how to become a monk. He was not seeking enlightenment in the forest. Instead, He asked something much closer to everyday life. How can an ordinary person live happily in this world? It is a question that millions of people continue to ask today. How do we build a family that remains strong through life's difficulties? How do we protect our relationships? How do we achieve both material success and inner peace? The Buddha's answer was remarkably practical. He did not speak about miracles. He did not promise instant happiness. Instead, he offered 4 timeless foundations that support a stable and flourishing family. These 4 foundations are simple enough for anyone to understand, yet profound enough to transform an entire life. First, work diligently. Second, protect and wisely manage what you earn. Third, choose good friends and wholesome influences. Fourth, live with moderation and balance. At first glance, these principles may seem almost too simple. Many people hear them and think, of course I already know these things, but knowing an idea is very different from living it. History is filled with intelligent people whose lives were destroyed by ignoring simple truths. The challenge has never been understanding these principles. The challenge is practicing them consistently. Think of a house. No architect begins with the roof. Every strong building starts with a solid foundation. If the foundation is weak, no amount of decoration can prevent the building from collapsing. Families work exactly the same way. Many people spend years trying to improve the visible parts of life. They seek larger homes, higher salaries, better schools, more expensive vacations, yet they often overlook the invisible foundation upon which lasting happiness depends. Without that foundation, external success becomes surprisingly fragile. A family may become wealthier but not happier, busier but not closer, more connected online yet increasingly disconnected from one another. Perhaps this explains why modern society faces an unusual paradox. Never before have people possessed so much technology. Never before have we enjoyed such convenience. Never before have so many opportunities been available. Yet loneliness continues to rise. Stress continues to grow. Families continue to struggle. Perhaps the problem is not that we have too little. Perhaps the problem is that we have forgotten what truly matters. The Buddha's teaching invites us to look inward before looking outward. Before asking, how can I earn more? He encourages us to ask, how can I become a wiser human being? Because a wise person can create happiness even with limited resources, but an unwise person may destroy happiness despite having abundant wealth. This simple truth lies at the heart of the Buddha's teaching on family life. Over the next parts of this series, we will explore each of these 4 foundations in depth. We will discover why diligence is more than hard work, why protecting wealth involves much more than saving money, why friendships shape the destiny of families, and why moderation may be one of the greatest forms of wisdom in the modern world. The journey begins not with changing our spouse, not with changing our children, not with changing society, but with changing ourselves. Because every strong family begins with one person who chooses wisdom over impulse, responsibility over excuses, and compassion over selfishness, and perhaps that one person can be you. The first foundation, diligence, the root of every successful family. Before a tree can bear sweet fruit, it must first grow strong roots. Without healthy roots, even the tallest tree will eventually fall when the storm arrives. The same principle applies to every family. Before a family can enjoy peace, financial security, mutual trust, and lasting happiness, it must first develop a strong foundation. The Buddha identified this first foundation as diligence. At first, this teaching sounds almost too ordinary. Many people think, of course success comes from hard work, but if diligence simply meant working long hours, then every hard-working person would become happy. Yet reality tells a different story. Around the world, millions of people work from sunrise until late at night. Some work 2 jobs, some sacrifice weekends, some rarely take vacations, and yet many of them remain exhausted, anxious, financially insecure, and emotionally distant from their own families. If hard work alone were enough, why does this happen? The Buddha invites us to ask a deeper question. What kind of work truly creates happiness? This question changes everything. According to Buddhist philosophy, diligence is not merely about physical effort, it is about right effort. There is a profound difference between being busy and being productive. A person may spend 12 hours every day working without purpose, while another person spends 8 focused hours creating meaningful results. The first becomes tired, the second becomes fulfilled. The difference lies not in the number of hours worked, but in the quality of awareness brought to the work. Modern psychology supports this insight. Researchers have discovered that people who possess self-discipline and purpose tend to experience greater life satisfaction than those who simply work harder without direction. Discipline creates consistency. Consistency creates progress. Progress creates confidence. Confidence strengthens relationships. The Buddha understood this long before psychologists began studying human behavior. He observed that every meaningful achievement begins with small, repeated actions. A healthy body is not built in a single day. A successful career is not created in a single month. A happy marriage is not formed by one romantic gesture. Everything worthwhile grows slowly, like a seed becoming a forest. Imagine a farmer standing in his field. Every morning, he waters his crops, he removes weeds, he protects the soil. Day after day, his work seems almost invisible. Nothing spectacular happens. Weeks pass, months pass, then one day, the field becomes golden with rice. People admire the harvest, very few admire the quiet discipline that produced it. Life often works exactly the same way. People celebrate success, few notice the countless mornings of effort behind it. The Buddha encouraged us to appreciate the invisible work that shapes visible results. Unfortunately, modern society often teaches the opposite. We live in a culture of instant gratification. We expect quick success, quick money, quick happiness, quick relationships. Even personal growth is expected to happen overnight. When reality proves slower, many people become discouraged. They abandon their goals long before meaningful change has had time to appear. This impatience is one of the greatest enemies of diligence. The Buddha understood that real growth follows the rhythm of nature. A flower cannot be forced to bloom before its season. A child cannot become an adult in a week. Wisdom cannot be downloaded like a file. Everything valuable requires time, patience. Therefore, is not separate from diligence. It is part of diligence. To continue walking even when progress is invisible, to continue acting wisely even when no one applauds, to continue doing what is right simply because it is right. This is genuine diligence. But there is another misunderstanding we must address. Some people believe that diligence means sacrificing everything for work. They neglect their health, ignore their spouses, miss their children's most important moments. They tell themselves, I am doing this for my family. Ironically, while trying to provide a better life, they slowly lose the very relationships they hoped to protect. The Buddha never encouraged blind obsession with work. Instead, he taught balance. Work should support life. Life should not become a prisoner of work. There is an old story about 2 woodcutters. Both begin cutting trees at sunrise. The first works continuously without stopping. The second pauses every few hours. Observers assume the first man will cut more wood, but by sunset, the second has produced far more. Someone asks, how is this possible? You spent so much time resting. The second woodcutter smiles and replies, I wasn't resting, I was sharpening my axe. This simple story carries profound wisdom. Many people work harder and harder without ever sharpening the tools of their own mind. They neglect learning, reflection, health, meditation, relationships. Eventually, they become exhausted, not because life demanded too much, but because they forgot to renew themselves. The Buddha taught that the mind is the greatest tool we possess. A peaceful mind works more wisely than a restless one. A clear mind solves problems more effectively than an anxious one. An ethical mind earns trust that money alone can never buy. Therefore, diligence is not simply about movement. It is about meaningful movement. It is not measured by how tired we become. It is measured by how much wisdom guides our effort. For parents, diligence means more than earning an income. It means being emotionally present, listening to children, keeping promises, teaching through example. Children rarely remember the expensive gifts they received, but they remember who attended their school performance, who comforted them when they cried, who believed in them when they doubted themselves. Sometimes the greatest work a parent performs is invisible, love expressed consistently through ordinary moments. The Buddha often reminded his followers that every action leaves a trace, just as a river slowly shapes stone through constant flow. Our daily habits slowly shape our character. We do not become responsible in a single day, we become responsible through thousands of responsible choices. Likewise, families are not strengthened by one extraordinary event, they are strengthened by ordinary acts of care repeated every day, preparing breakfast, speaking kindly, working honestly, returning home on time, apologizing after mistakes, encouraging one another during difficult seasons. These small acts may seem insignificant, yet together, they become the architecture of a peaceful home. Perhaps this is why diligence is listed first among the Buddha's 4 foundations. Without effort, nothing else can flourish. Without responsibility, wealth disappears. Without discipline, friendships weaken. Without perseverance, moderation becomes impossible. Diligence is the root from which all other virtues grow. It is not merely the ability to work, it is the willingness to show up each day, with integrity, with patience, with purpose, and with compassion, because in the end, successful families are not built by extraordinary people, they are built by ordinary people who choose to do ordinary things extraordinarily well, and that is the first foundation of lasting happiness. Part 2, Protecting Wealth, Why Money Alone Can Never Make a Family Rich. Imagine that tomorrow morning you wake up and discover that every dollar in your bank account has disappeared, your savings are gone, your investments have vanished, everything you worked for financially has been lost. It would certainly be painful, but now imagine something different. Imagine waking up and discovering that your health is gone, or your reputation has been destroyed, or your family no longer trusts you, or your children no longer want to speak with you. Which loss would hurt more? For most people, the answer is obvious. Money can often be earned again. Trust is much harder to rebuild. Health, once damaged, may never fully return. A loving relationship, once broken, sometimes leaves scars that last a lifetime. This is why the Buddha taught that true wealth is much greater than money. One of the greatest misunderstandings in modern society is the belief that financial success alone guarantees happiness. From childhood, many people are taught that life follows a simple formula: study hard, get a good job, earn a high salary, buy a house, buy a bigger house, buy a nicer car, then happiness will naturally follow. For a while, this dream appears convincing. We admire successful people, we celebrate wealth, we often assume that those who possess more also enjoy greater peace. Yet reality quietly tells another story. Every year, newspapers report wealthy business leaders losing their families, celebrities with enormous fortunes struggle with loneliness, successful professionals suffer from burnout. Some people have everything money can buy, except peace of mind. The Buddha understood this paradox long before modern economics. He observed that wealth is not dangerous in itself. Money is simply a tool, like fire. It can warm a home or burn it down. Everything depends on how wisely it is used. For this reason, the Buddha did not teach people to reject wealth. Instead, he encouraged householders to earn wealth honestly, protect it wisely, and use it compassionately. This balanced view remains remarkably relevant today. The problem is not that people have money, the problem is that many people become owned by the very wealth they believe they possess. Instead of controlling money, money begins to control them. They work longer hours than necessary, they compare themselves endlessly with others, they spend not because they need something, but because they fear appearing less successful. Slowly, financial freedom becomes financial slavery. Modern psychology gives this phenomenon a name. It is often called the hedonic treadmill. The idea is simple. When people acquire something new, a larger house, a luxury car, or the latest technology, they feel happy for a short time. Soon, However, that happiness fades, the new possession becomes ordinary, a new desire quickly takes its place, the cycle repeats endlessly. The Buddha described this tendency more than 25 centuries ago. He taught that craving has no natural ending, if desire alone guides our lives. Satisfaction will always remain just beyond our reach. This does not mean we should reject success, it means success must be guided by wisdom. Consider two different families. The first earns $200,000 each year, the second earns half that amount. At first glance, we might assume the first family is more secure, but look closer. The first family spends almost everything it earns. Credit card debt grows every month. Stress follows every unexpected expense. Arguments about money become common. The second family lives more simply. They save consistently. They avoid unnecessary debt. They discuss financial decisions together. They understand the difference between wants and needs. Years later, which family is truly wealthier? The answer has very little to do with income. It has everything to do with wisdom. This illustrates one of the Buddha's deepest insights. Prosperity is not measured only by what enters our hands, it is measured by what remains after wisdom has guided our choices. Protecting wealth therefore begins long before money enters a bank account. It begins in the mind. Every purchase begins with a thought. Every investment begins with a decision. Every financial mistake begins with an emotion left unchecked. Many people believe financial problems are caused primarily by low income. Sometimes this is true, but behavioral economists have discovered that income alone rarely explains financial well-being. Two people earning the same salary can experience completely different lives. One builds security, the other accumulates debt. The difference lies not in their paycheck, but in their habits. The Buddha would likely agree. He repeatedly emphasized that our actions shape our future more powerfully than our circumstances alone. Money, like water, naturally flows in the direction of our habits. Healthy habits preserve wealth, unhealthy habits quietly drain it away. Yet the Buddha's understanding of wealth extends far beyond economics. He invites us to consider forms of wealth that cannot be deposited into a bank. Health is wealth. Without health, even the finest possessions lose much of their value. Time is wealth. Every day we receive 24 hours. Unlike money, lost time can never be earned back. Character is wealth. A trustworthy person possesses something more valuable than gold. Relationships are wealth. A loving family provides security that no insurance policy can guarantee. Wisdom is wealth. Knowledge helps us earn a living. Wisdom teaches us how to live. Modern society often celebrates financial capital while overlooking these invisible forms of wealth, yet history repeatedly shows that civilizations decline not only because they lose money, but because they lose integrity, compassion, and wisdom. Families follow the same pattern. A family may possess enormous financial resources while quietly becoming emotionally bankrupt. Parents become too busy to notice their children. Meals become hurried. Conversations become rare, love slowly becomes replaced by transactions, the house grows larger, the hearts grow farther apart. The Buddha reminds us that wealth should serve relationships, not replace them. Money should create opportunities to express generosity, gratitude, and compassion. It should never become the measure of human worth. There is another danger that often goes unnoticed. Sometimes people protect their money more carefully than they protect their peace. They become anxious over every investment. Every market fluctuation disturbs their sleep. Every financial setback feels like a personal failure. In trying to secure their future, they sacrifice their present. The Buddha taught a different way. Earn honestly, save wisely, use generously, remain unattached. This final principle is perhaps the most difficult. Non-attachment does not mean refusing to own anything, it means refusing to let possessions own your heart. A wise person enjoys wealth without becoming imprisoned by it. They understand that every material possession is temporary. Houses age, cars wear out, technology becomes obsolete. Even the strongest economies rise and fall. Only wisdom, virtue, and compassion continue to enrich both ourselves and those around us. Perhaps the greatest form of wealth is not found inside a vault, perhaps it is found inside a peaceful mind, because a peaceful mind can remain grateful whether life brings abundance or hardship. A peaceful family can weather financial storms without losing its love, and a peaceful heart possesses something that no thief can ever steal. The Buddha's teaching is therefore not a rejection of prosperity, it is an invitation to redefine prosperity. Real wealth is measured not only by what we own, but by what we are, not only by the size of our income, but by the depth of our character, not only by the comfort of our home, but by the warmth within it. For when wisdom protects wealth, wealth becomes a blessing, but when wisdom is absent, even great riches can become the beginning of great suffering, and that is the second foundation of a truly happy family. Part 3. Choose your friends wisely. How the people around you shape your destiny. Imagine placing a clear glass of water beside a bottle of dark ink. The water begins perfectly transparent, pure, untouched. Now imagine adding just a single drop of ink. Almost nothing seems to change. The water still looks mostly clear. Add another drop, then another, and another. Eventually, without anyone noticing the exact moment it happened, the entire glass becomes dark. Human character often changes in exactly the same way. Rarely does a person's life change because of one dramatic event. More often, it changes through small influences repeated every day. One conversation, one habit, one friendship, one environment, one idea accepted without question, little by little. These influences shape the way we think, the choices we make, and ultimately the people we become. This is why the Buddha placed such great importance on choosing our companions wisely. He understood a truth that modern psychology continues to confirm. Human beings are deeply influenced by the people around them. Many people like to believe they are completely independent. They proudly say, "I make my own decisions, no one influences me, I think for myself." To some extent, this is true. But philosophy and psychology remind us that no human being develops in complete isolation. Long before we learn to speak, we imitate, we observe our parents, we copy our friends, we absorb the values of our community. Even as adults, we continue learning, not only through formal education but through the countless people we spend our lives with. Every relationship leaves an imprint upon the mind. Some relationships encourage courage. Others encourage fear, some awaken kindness, others awaken anger, some help us become wiser, others slowly pull us away from our deepest values. The Buddha recognized this remarkable power of association. He once emphasized that noble friendship is not merely helpful on the spiritual path, it is one of its essential conditions. Why? Because wisdom grows most naturally in an environment where wisdom is respected. Imagine planting the same seed in two different places. One seed is planted in rich soil, it receives sunlight, fresh water, care. The other seed is planted among rocks where little nourishment exists. Both seeds possess the same potential, yet only one is likely to flourish. Human beings are very much the same. Potential alone is never enough. Environment matters. This principle appears everywhere in life. A child raised in a loving home often learns trust. A child surrounded by violence may learn fear before learning hope. An employee working among honest colleagues is more likely to value integrity. Someone surrounded by constant dishonesty may gradually begin to see deception as normal. Behavior is contagious. Character is contagious. Even emotions are contagious. Modern neuroscience has discovered something fascinating. Our brains contain what scientists call mirror neurons. These specialized brain cells help us imitate the emotions and behaviors of those around us. When we spend time with joyful people, we often become more joyful. When we constantly surround ourselves with angry people, anger quietly becomes familiar. When kindness becomes normal in our environment, kindness becomes easier to practice ourselves. The Buddha did not use the language of neuroscience, yet his observations about human behavior reached remarkably similar conclusions. This is why he encouraged people to seek companions who inspire wisdom, generosity, patience, and ethical living. A true friend does much more than entertain us. A true friend helps us become a better version of ourselves. Unfortunately, modern society often confuses popularity with friendship. Social media tells us that success is measured by the number of followers, likes, and online connections, but quantity has never been the same as quality. A person may have thousands of online contacts and still feel profoundly lonely. Another may have only 3 close friends and enjoy a deeply meaningful life. The Buddha was not interested in how many friends we have. He was concerned with what kind of people those friends help us become. Ask yourself a simple question. When you spend time with someone, what happens afterward? Do you leave feeling inspired? Do you become more patient, more honest, more compassionate, or do you leave feeling exhausted, more negative, more judgmental, more anxious than before? Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is not finding more friends, it is choosing better ones. This does not mean we should reject people who struggle. Compassion asks us to care for everyone, but compassion does not require us to imitate harmful behavior. There is an important difference between loving someone and allowing their habits to shape your own life. Imagine trying to rescue someone who is drowning. If you jump into the water without knowing how to swim, both of you may drown. To help others effectively, you must first remain stable yourself. The same principle applies to relationships. We can support people without adopting their destructive habits. We can show kindness without abandoning wisdom. This balance is one of the Buddha's greatest teachings. He never encouraged blind attachment, nor did he encourage cold isolation. Instead, he taught wise companionship. The ancient philosophers of many cultures reached similar conclusions. Aristotle believed that friendship was one of the highest forms of human flourishing. Confucius taught that noble friends help cultivate virtue. The Stoics advised people to associate with those whose character they wished to imitate. Across civilizations, wise thinkers recognized the same truth. We become like those we admire. This raises an uncomfortable question. Who are you becoming? If someone observed your closest relationships over the past 5 years, what would they predict about your future? Would they expect you to become calmer, or more anxious, more generous, or more selfish, more disciplined, or more distracted? The answer often lies not in your intentions but in your environment. Families experience this principle every day. Parents often worry about what schools their children attend, what subjects they study, what careers they will choose. These concerns are important, but perhaps an equally important question is, who are your children learning from every day? Because children learn values long before they learn philosophy. They observe how adults speak, how they handle conflict, how they respond to disappointment, how they treat strangers. The home itself becomes the child's first circle of friendship. Parents are, in many ways, a child's earliest companions. If kindness is practiced at home, kindness becomes familiar. If respect is practiced at home, respect becomes natural. If forgiveness is practiced at home, forgiveness becomes possible. In this way, families quietly shape future generations. The Buddha understood that every friendship is also a form of education. Every conversation teaches something. Every relationship trains the heart. Every environment leaves invisible fingerprints upon the soul. Therefore, choosing good friends is not merely a social decision. It is a moral decision. It is a psychological decision. It is a spiritual decision. Ultimately, it is a decision about the kind of person we wish to become. For families, this wisdom carries a profound message. Protect your home not only from physical danger, but from unhealthy influences. Invite into your life those who encourage honesty. Seek conversations that expand understanding. Value friends who speak the truth with kindness rather than those who simply tell you what you want to hear. Because one wise friend may change the direction of your entire life, and one destructive influence, left unchecked, may quietly change it as well. The Buddha's third foundation reminds us that happiness is never built alone. Every family is part of a larger community. Every individual is shaped by countless relationships. Choose those relationships wisely, for in the end, our companions do not merely walk beside us. Little by little, They help determine the path upon which we walk, and that is the third foundation of a truly happy family. Part 4, Living in Moderation, the Lost Art of Balance in an Age of Excess. Imagine a violin. If its strings are pulled too tightly, they will eventually snap. If they are too loose, the violin produces no beautiful music. Only when the strings are tuned with balance can they create harmony. Human life is very much the same. Too much work leads to exhaustion. Too much pleasure leads to emptiness. Too much saving creates fear of spending. Too much spending creates fear of tomorrow. Too much ambition steals today's peace. Too little ambition leaves a potential unrealized. The greatest challenge is not choosing one extreme over another, it is learning how to live in balance. More than 25 centuries ago, before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama experienced both extremes of human life. As a prince, he lived surrounded by luxury. Every comfort was available to him: beautiful gardens, elegant palaces, fine clothing, music, servants. Every desire seemed within reach. Yet despite having everything, he felt restless. Something essential was missing. He realized that pleasure alone could not satisfy the deepest questions of the human heart. So he left the palace, but instead of finding peace immediately, he embraced the opposite extreme. He practiced severe asceticism. He ate almost nothing. He pushed his body to its limits. He believed that denying every comfort might lead him to enlightenment. Years passed. His body became weak, his mind became exhausted. Still, the truth remained beyond his reach. Then one day, he recognized something profoundly simple. Neither luxury nor self-torture could free the mind. Both were forms of attachment. One was attachment to pleasure, the other was attachment to suffering. Real freedom lay somewhere between the two. This realization became one of the central teachings of Buddhism, the middle way. The middle way is often misunderstood. Some people think it means living an average life. Others think it means avoiding success or ambition. It means neither. The middle way is not mediocrity. It is wisdom. It is the ability to know when enough is enough. In today's world, this teaching may be more relevant than ever before. Modern society celebrates success. We are encouraged to consume more, work more, own more, achieve more, compete more. Even rest has become something to optimize. Our phones constantly demand attention. Advertisements persuade us that happiness is always one purchase away. Social media encourages endless comparison, without realizing it. Many people spend their lives chasing a finish line that keeps moving farther away. This endless pursuit has consequences. According to the World Health Organization, stress-related illnesses have become one of the leading health concerns worldwide. Rates of anxiety, depression, and burnout continue to rise. Ironically, these problems have increased during one of the most technologically advanced periods in human history. This suggests something important. Convenience alone cannot create peace. Technology cannot replace wisdom. The Buddha understood that suffering often begins when desire loses its limits. Desire itself is not the enemy. Without desire, we would never learn, grow, or improve. The problem arises when desire becomes endless, when nothing is ever enough, when gratitude disappears because comparison takes its place. Imagine standing beside the ocean with a cup. No matter how much water you pour into the cup, the ocean remains unchanged. Likewise, no amount of possessions can fill a mind that has forgotten how to appreciate what it already has. Contentment is not the absence of progress, it is the ability to enjoy the present while continuing to grow. This distinction is crucial. Many people confuse contentment with complacency. The Buddha did not encourage people to abandon responsibility or stop improving themselves. He encouraged improvement without becoming enslaved by endless craving. Consider a parent who works 12 hours every day. The intention may be noble. I want my children to have a better future. But if those children rarely see their parent, if conversations disappear, if birthdays are missed, if love is postponed until retirement, then an important question must be asked. What future are we actually building? Success achieved at the cost of the relationships it was meant to protect may not be success at all. Moderation reminds us that life cannot simply be postponed. Our children grow while we are busy making plans. Our parents grow older while we postpone visiting them. Our friendships fade while we promise ourselves we will reconnect someday. Life happens now, not someday. This is why mindfulness occupies such an important place in Buddhist philosophy. Mindfulness brings us back to the present. It teaches us that balance is not achieved once and forever. It is practiced moment by moment. Each day asks the same quiet questions. Have I worked enough? Have I rested enough? Have I listened enough? Have I spoken kindly? Have I made time for the people who matter most? Moderation is not merely about money. It is about energy, attention, time, emotion. Even love requires balance. Too much control can suffocate. Too little guidance can create confusion. Parents who protect their children from every difficulty may unintentionally prevent them from developing resilience. Parents who provide no guidance at all may leave them feeling abandoned. Wisdom lies between these extremes. The same principle applies to discipline. Strictness without compassion creates fear. Compassion without boundaries creates disorder. Healthy families understand that love and responsibility must grow together. The Buddha's middle way teaches us to avoid the illusion that happiness can be found at the extremes. Many people imagine that if they simply become wealthier, busier, or more successful, peace will naturally arrive. Yet peace is not waiting at the end of endless achievement. Peace grows through the quality of each present moment. This truth also transforms the way we view failure. In modern culture, people often believe they must be perfect. Perfect parents, perfect partners, perfect professionals. Social media amplifies this illusion. We compare our ordinary lives to everyone else's carefully edited highlights. The result is constant dissatisfaction. The Buddha offered a gentler perspective. Human beings are imperfect. We make mistakes. We become impatient. We lose our temper. We become distracted. What matters is not perfection. What matters is awareness. Each mistake becomes an opportunity to begin again. This compassionate understanding allows families to grow together rather than judge one another endlessly. Perhaps moderation can be understood through the image of a river. A river does not resist every obstacle, nor does it surrender completely. It flows, it adapts, it remains steady despite constant change. Families that practice moderation become like this river. Economic hardship may come, unexpected illness may arrive, children eventually leave home, parents grow older, the world changes, yet the family remains resilient because its foundation is not built upon circumstances. It is built upon wisdom, and wisdom adapts. The Buddha never promised a life without difficulty. Instead, he taught a way of meeting difficulty without losing ourselves. This may be the greatest meaning of moderation, not having less, not having more, but having enough. Enough ambition to continue growing, enough gratitude to enjoy the present, enough discipline to fulfill our responsibilities, enough compassion to forgive ourselves and others. Enough wisdom to recognize that the richest life is not measured by how much we possess, but by how peacefully we live. As we come to the end of this journey, we can now see why the Buddha's four foundations belong together. Diligence creates the resources needed for life. Wise stewardship protects those resources. Good friends strengthen our character. Moderation ensures that none of these blessings become sources of suffering. Remove one foundation, and the whole structure becomes unstable. Work without moderation becomes burnout. Wealth without wisdom becomes greed. Friendship without virtue becomes temptation. Moderation without diligence becomes laziness. Only when all four work together does true harmony emerge. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson the Buddha offers every family. A happy home is not built by luck. It is not guaranteed by wealth. It is not purchased through success. It is created, day after day, through countless ordinary choices made with extraordinary wisdom. Every honest day's work, every thoughtful financial decision, every uplifting friendship, every moment of balance instead of excess. These quiet choices become the architecture of a meaningful life. In a world that constantly tells us to seek more, the Buddha gently reminds us to seek something deeper. not merely more possessions, but more wisdom, not merely more comfort, but more compassion, not merely a larger house, but a warmer home, because in the end, the strongest families are not those who have everything, they are those who know what truly matters, and perhaps, that is the deepest meaning of happiness, the greatest wealth a family can ever possess. As we reach the end of this journey, let us return to the question we asked at the very beginning: why do some families flourish while others slowly fall apart? Is it because some people are luckier than others? Is it because they earn more money, live in larger homes, or have fewer problems? The Buddha's answer is both simple and profound. A happy family is not created by chance, it is created through wisdom. Every family, no matter where they live or how much they own, is built one decision at a time. Every word we speak, every habit we repeat, every choice we make, quietly shapes the future of those we love. The Buddha understood that lasting happiness is never the result of a single achievement, it is the result of countless small actions performed with awareness, kindness, and responsibility. That is why he taught these four timeless foundations: work diligently, not because wealth alone brings happiness, but because honest effort builds dignity, confidence, and responsibility. Protect what you earn, not because money is life's greatest treasure, but because wisdom teaches us to care for every resource entrusted to us, including our health, our time, and our relationships. Choose good friends, because the people who walk beside us today often determine the direction of our lives tomorrow. And finally, live with moderation, because balance is the quiet strength that protects every other virtue. These four principles are not separate lessons, they are deeply connected. Diligence creates opportunity, wisdom protects opportunity, good relationships strengthen opportunity, moderation allows opportunity to become lasting happiness. Remove one, and the others begin to weaken. Together, they form the architecture of a peaceful home. But perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: the Buddha never asked us to build a perfect family. Perfection has never existed. Every family experiences disagreements, every family faces financial challenges, every family encounters illness, disappointment, and uncertainty. The difference is not whether difficulties appear, the difference is how we respond to them. A family guided by wisdom does not become free from problems, it becomes stronger than its problems. This is a message our modern world desperately needs. Today we live in an age of extraordinary technology. We can communicate across continents in seconds. We have more knowledge available than any generation before us. Yet many people still struggle with loneliness, stress, broken relationships, and the feeling that something essential is missing. Perhaps the missing piece has never been another invention, another promotion, another possession. Perhaps what we truly need is a different way of living. The Buddha reminds us that peace cannot be purchased, it cannot be downloaded, it cannot be inherited, it must be cultivated, patiently, wisely, one day at a time. Imagine what our world would look like if every family practiced these four foundations. Parents would become role models instead of merely providers. Children would grow up learning kindness before competition. Money would become a tool instead of a master. Friendships would inspire virtue rather than temptation. Homes would become places of peace instead of places of conflict. Communities would become stronger. Society would become more compassionate. And perhaps the world itself would become a little kinder. Real change does not always begin in governments. It does not always begin in schools. Sometimes, it begins around a simple family table, with one honest conversation, one act of forgiveness, one wise decision, one small step taken today. The Buddha's teachings have survived for more than 25 centuries, not because they belong only to monks, or only to temples, but because they speak to something timeless within every human heart, the desire to love, the desire to belong, the desire to live without regret, the desire to create a life that truly matters. Perhaps that is why his wisdom continues to inspire millions of people across every culture and every generation, because deep inside, every one of us is searching for the same thing, not simply success, not simply wealth, but a peaceful heart, a meaningful life, and a family where love can quietly grow. So as you leave this video today, don't ask yourself, how can I change everyone around me? Instead, ask a simpler question: what is one small change I can make today? Perhaps it is speaking more gently, perhaps it is listening more carefully, perhaps it is spending less and appreciating more, perhaps it is choosing better influences, or perhaps it is simply being fully present with the people you love, because every great journey begins with one small step, and every happy family begins with one person willing to choose wisdom over impulse, compassion over anger, balance over excess, and love over fear. That person could be you. Until next time, may you be healthy, may you be peaceful, may you live with wisdom, and may all beings be free from suffering.